the Cinderella podcast, where we watch and review every Cinderella adaptation we can get our hands on, discussing the same story over and over until we slowly go insane. I'm Liv.
And I'm Talon. And today we watched Swing Shift Cinderella from 1945, which we're just going to go ahead and refer to as the Jessica Rabbit Cinderella.
So this was animated, and it had a grand total running time of 7 minutes. So again, this is going to be one of our how did this much nonsense get crammed into so few minutes?
So this is an MGM cartoon by Tex Avery, who's known for like all the Warner Brothers cartoons. He created Bugs Bunny, all that stuff. And it starts with the literal like roaring lion and everything.
Mm-hmm. But Talon, what else does it start with that's a little bit abnormal?
It starts with Little Red Riding Hood being chased by a wolf. And Little Red Riding Hood is like a baby with ringlets and freckles, and she's screaming, and the wolf is going, wah ha 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 ha.
And they chase one another around the literal credits scene. The credits go off to the left, they run around a forest on the right, the credits go back to the middle, then leave to the right, they go back around the left, go across the front of the credits, or like the opening title sequence, and then pause and go, hang on.
Yeah, Little Red Riding Hood goes, hey, wait a minute, Joe, and puts her hand up, and the wolf freezes in midair. And she goes, ain't we in the wrong picture? That title don't say nothing about Little Red Riding Hood. And then they both read the title, and the wolf, who now is just like a talking person type wolf, goes, well, I'll be. Now you runk along, honey. I'll see you later. Now there's a dame I'd like to meet. And like, Gussie's up.
He puts on a nice kind of sports jacket. It's a button down. Because when we see him for the first time, he's wearing ripped red overalls with one shoulder strap done. And
They're also shorts.
They're shorts. Well, they're jaggedy. It doesn't look good. And he switches to a nice pair of trousers and a button down jacket.
With a bow tie.
With a bow tie, and he calls a cab and he drives off to meet Cinderella,
who lives very helpfully at the Cinderella Arms, labeled for us.
Yes, I appreciated that.
All the labeling was very helpful because this was not an easy to follow narrative.
It was not. So the wolf opens the door, begins to say, hi, do you know where Cinderella is? Or Talon wrote down all the words, I didn't. But
like a crazy person.
He asks to meet Cinderella, and in the middle of asking, gets a good look at the person who has opened the door, who is, spoilers, Cinderella, and just dissolves into a stammering, blithering idiot.
I wrote this part down too. He goes, ha, 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 ho, ooh, ah, ha, and then he hits his head.
Yep. So, Talon, can you describe what Cinderella looks like when we first meet her?
So she looks like the sexy Halloween costume version of Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, but in this tattered brown dress. So she's got these red pigtails with little blue bows on them. She's also wearing an incredible amount of blue eyeshadow and like really thick black eyeliner. And she is very, very curvy.
So the dress, I described it as, this is a Flintstones dress.
Yes.
So she's wearing a Flintstones dress. She's got extremely red hair. Honestly, she reminded me, I'd like to think that the Betty Boop Cinderella and the prince with his miraculous teal eyeshadow had a baby, and it was this woman.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, because really curvy, but humanly proportioned in a way that Betty Boop is not. Extremely red hair, and killer eyeshadow, which I can only assume is a genetic quality because I don't have it.
So she's actually referred to as Red because she's the same character as the Red Hot Riding Hood cartoon, which came out 2 years previous to that and shares some common points, which Liv is going to be in charge of.
So I did not know that there was a Red Hot Riding Hood. So as soon as we finished watching this and screaming, we watched it again. Talon told me that there was a Red Hot Riding Hood. I immediately watched that.
Whereas I declined to go down that hole again.
Because Talon is the wiser of the two of us. Red Hot Riding Hood is more upsetting. It is extremely upsetting, and I don't want to talk about it. It has all the
Well,
same comedy beats that we'll talk about here in a slightly different order and with a slightly different punchline, but it's the same routine.
I mean, if you do something well, just remake it, but with different fairy tales forever. Do you think there's a Sleeping Beauty version?
Oh, if there's not, we should make one. Given how questionable this did with consent, I don't think a Sleeping Beauty one is advised,
Oh, rough. That's gonna be rough.
right?
Okay,
Mm.
so the wolf is super into Cinderella. Cinderella is very not into the wolf. And the next bit is just him trying to get into the house to kind of hit on her.
So the wolf tries several ways to gain entrance to the house. He runs at the front door. She slams it. He turns into a door, and then all of his teeth fall out. He runs
Then
through.
he tries to run full speed through the whole building, but he kind of goes all the way through the very top and falls out the window and gets twisted into like a pretzel.
Mhm. So Talon made a list of everything that was said. I made a list of everything that happened to the wolf. We didn't plan this. He runs through the door again. This time, Cinderella hits him on the head with an iron skillet, and he gets smushed into a flat wolf, and then says, "Just call me Shorty." I don't understand if that was supposed to be a comedy beat,
Is
but
that like a joke? Because it's not
it
a
had
double entendre.
it's
It's just a
not.
single.
It had a very the whole thing had a very Guys and Dolls theme to it, where everybody was just over the top Brooklyn, New York mafia-esque accents. It was bizarre. It felt like Guys and Dolls.
It did have a very like gangster doll kind of feel to
It
it.
did. It did. Very strong.
So then Cinderella picks up the old school rotary phone to call her fairy godmother. And this is the first time we hear her. And
Yes.
she's both like very sultry and also like very bored. And she goes, "Hello, fairy godmother."
Yes. So what she's talking in is a classic mid-Atlantic accent. The created by Americans to sound more like British without admitting that we wanted to sound like the Brits World War II announcer voice. That is how she's speaking. That's the voice. She does it really well. And
Liv,
she calls her fairy godmother.
where is the fairy godmother?
Oh, the fairy godmother is living my best life, Talon. That's where the fairy godmother is. So the fairy godmother is at a bar by herself with a fishbowl sized it has an olive, so I assume it's a martini, but I want to say it's a margarita because it comes in a fishbowl and I've had those and they're fun. And the fairy godmother is very tall and kind of wiggly, I guess. She has very short white curly hair. She looks sort of like Sophia from Golden Girls. It's that kind of hair.
Yeah.
Yes. So she gets a phone call and Cinderella tells her that there is a mean old wolf in the house. And
I've got the actual line.
yeah, what was the actual line?
So the actual line is, "Listen, Granny, if you're gonna get me to the ball tonight, you better get over here. There's a wolf in the house."
And the fairy godmother loses her mind. She chugs her entire full fishbowl margarita and just transforms whatever she's into a scooter and just zooms. No, she comes out of the phone first, doesn't she? Her head literally pops out of the phone and is like, "A wolf?" In a very
Yahoo!
Yahoo, in a Granny's gonna get laid kind of way. And then turns something into a scooter and just zooms her way over.
She's very into the wolf. So she pops immediately to where they're at into the house and she starts chasing him around the room. And when I say around the room, I don't mean like around the room on the floor. I mean around the room, like through the walls. Like
Listener,
they're
you,
running on the walls.
listener, you can't see, but Talon is making big circular hand gestures.
Which
It's
you
great.
just did to explain what I
Which
was
I just did
doing.
to So yes, they're running Matrix style around the walls of the room, and motorcycle noises are playing over this. The fairy godmother then catches him and makes him a mini and puts him like a Tweety bird and puts him in a cage and says, "Wait a minute, honey."
"Stick around, big boy. I'll be right back," is the direct
Is-
line.
Yeah, yeah.
The
I'm
reason
trying.
I wrote down every single line is because every single line was a killer.
It was. And the reason I didn't is because I would like to excise this from my mind as fast as possible.
So she puts him inside this golden bird cage, and then goes over to Cinderella, says, "Okay, dearie, off you go to the ball," and then poofs her. And Liv, will you describe her going to the ball outfit?
Absolutely, I would love to. She turns into Jessica Rabbit. We both
She
have this in our notes. It is the identical costume. She has her hair in sort of an upswept 1940s kind of way, but she's wearing the strapless, backless, skin tight, super curvy red dress and the white coat that goes over it. She turns into Jessica Rabbit. I can't stress enough how exactly she transforms into literally Jessica Rabbit.
and like it is the direct inspiration for Jessica Rabbit because we'll get to it, but she goes to a club
Yeah.
and she does a number.
Hmm.
And it's a very Jessica Rabbit kind of number. Also, if you've seen Cool World with Brad Pitt, very similar to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, also similar vibe. Anyway, so the fairy godmother brings over a pumpkin
Yes.
and waves a wand at it, and it turns into like a fancy old school car. It's a Rolls Royce, is it? I don't
I
know.
don't know. It's a big, fancy, old timey car.
It's fancy. And Cinderella goes, "Why, grandmother, you do wave a mean wand, don't you, old girl?"
That was an amazing line. That might have been my favorite line in the whole show. How does Cinderella and her car leave to go to the ball?
Is this a trick question?
It is. They go through a wall.
Oh, okay, good. Because once again, the pumpkin is transformed into the vehicle while still inside the house.
Absolutely. And they do not even pretend that there is an open wall. She just crashes straight through her drywall and zooms onto this nightclub.
Okay, so a couple of things there. One, Cinderella's behind the wheel of the car. She's driving it herself. I think that's kind of cool. It's 1940 something, 45. Yeah, I think that's a cool thing in
Yeah.
1945. And then also, fairy godmother tells her, "Don't forget, you have to be home by midnight." And she goes, "Very well, grandmother, 12 o'clock."
Right.
Every single thing she says is my favorite thing in
It's
the entire
very
universe.
it's very noir. I wanted her to drive onto the set of a detective in an old hat with a gun hidden in his desk.
You wanted to watch Roger Rabbit.
So here's the thing, I've actually never watched Roger Rabbit.
Oh, it's literally a noir. That's literally what happens.
No, I know all about it. I've just
Oh,
never
okay.
actually watched it with my eyes. So I don't but yeah, I wanted her to drive onto the set of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That's
Well, I super recommend Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I don't know how I feel about this yet.
yeah. So rather than following Cinderella at this point, we continue to watch the fairy godmother pursue the wolf.
I do
Uh
like that exactly the same amount that Cinderella doesn't want to be hit on by the wolf does not want to be hit on by the fairy godmother.
so I noticed that as well. And it's a really fun comedy beat of, oh no, he doesn't like that because she's old. And she transforms herself, but she puts on the wrong costume. She puts on blue pajamas and it says Miss Undesirables 1898. And she goes, oh, how embarrassing, wrong costume. And tops herself again and is wearing a halter top, slinky purple dress.
Mhm.
And
The wolf gets a tuxedo.
the wolf gets a tuxedo. What bothers me about this comedy beat is that they got so close to the right conclusion of, gee, wouldn't it be great if we didn't force our attentions on people who didn't want them? But they don't. They don't make it there. That's not where they wind up. They're just this winds up being a beat about, ugh, it's so gross. An old lady might have a sex drive. Ugh, how how unpleasant to have an old lady chase after you with lust in her eyes. How unpleasant that is to be pursued
See,
thusly.
See, I didn't get that much of that vibe from it because they didn't really like try to make her overly hideous in any like visual way. Like they could have made her have like really
Yeah,
saggy like boobs or something
yeah.
or
And if
be
she
like
hasn't,
really wrinkly. But she's repulsive to the wolf just by virtue of like that's not who he wants.
yeah, and she's plainer. She's not drawn beautifully. She has a pointy nose and sort of she's just sort of meh.
I
But
mean,
she,
Listen, we can't all be like
We can't all be Jessica Rabbit.
Jessica Rabbit.
It, if we were all Jessica Rabbit, it would be meaningless. We'd wind up in Harrison Bergeron, and we don't want that. So this comedy beat is the whole rest of the thing is the wolf is trying to get to Cinderella. The fairy godmother is either pursuing him or has caught him in some way and is keeping him with her. And so it's just going to be that joke again
That's
and
the
again.
joke.
That's the joke. It's just that joke a whole bunch.
To be fair, it is a fairly short cartoon.
It is
So
short, but they do hit this joke 7 or 8 times.
would you say that they hit you over the head with a mallet with this joke?
I would say that I tried to leave and I felt like someone threw a fishing line with a toilet plunger after me and caught me and pulled me back and made me finish watching it.
This is funnier if you're
This is
one of
funnier
us.
if you had to watch this with us, that would be funny. Those are all things that happen. So
They both look like very fancy, and the wolf is still trying to get away, while the fairy godmother is trying to like cuddle up with him at a table, and he drills through the wall with his head, steals her wand, jumps into the bathtub, which he turns into a flashy red car, and drives away to follow after Cinderella. The fairy godmother follows him in hot pursuit, having turned a trash can into a much worse looking car.
yes, it's a less classy car.
And they get to this big castle labeled Castle Manana, and we get that long car gag where the car keeps going and going, and it's a really long car.
So Cinderella is at the I don't know what the
Coat
name
check.
of this. The coat check. Thank you. So
Yes.
Cinderella is at the coat check checking her coat, and the wolf sees this and runs around the other side of the coat check so that he can surprise her with a kiss and surprises somebody with a kiss, but it's not Cinderella.
It's the fairy godmother. She likes it, but he yells and kind of
Flees.
backs away into the exit, at which point she puts a plunger in like a gun to get him back.
It's a fishing line.
A shot
It-
from a gun.
Does she shoot it from a gun?
Okay, so he yells and he's running away, and the fairy godmother throws a plunger at him. Liv and I can't quite agree at the delivery method of a plunger. She says fishing line. I say there was a gun involved. Neither of us are willing to watch this again to tell you which one.
Nope, this mystery will go unanswered. But be that as it may, he winds up with the plunger stuck to him, and she reels him, the fairy godmother reels him back to her side.
And now they're at a table, and on stage there's a spotlight, and the announcer goes, and now that fascinating little fairy tale fireball, that super duper little pinup princess, swing shift Cinderella.
Okay, this is a beautiful moment for me. This is something that Talon does not know because I kept it out of my notes and out of our chat. The song that she sings is called Oh Wolfie.
Mm-hmm.
It is a parody of a song called Oh Johnny, which I have on my iPod and have danced to and have sung and could sing word for word because it's an awesome song and there's a square dance that goes to it. So I'm in the middle of this show that I am not enjoying and that is uncomfortable and unpleasant. I am suddenly sitting on my sofa just going, oh Johnny, how you can love. Oh Johnny, heavens above. So that was my experience. And I'm so happy about it. Talon's making a lot of faces right now, guys.
I am delighted. I wish I hadn't spent so much time writing down the lyrics, considering one of us already knew them.
Oh, the lyrics are completely different, but
good.
it's the tune and the concept remain the same. It's, oh, male person, everybody likes you. All the girls like you. You have a lot of attractive qualities. Congratulations.
Yeah, that basically covers it. Okay, so Cinderella appears on stage in a completely different outfit. Liv, would you
Yes.
like to describe this outfit?
Yes, so she's wearing a white bustier leotard thing. It has little hip frills.
It's got a little skirt, but only in the back.
Oh, well, it's on the hips and in the back. So it's so cute. I don't know where she got it. I don't know what the point of her changing into a red dress in order to change into a white dress is. By the way, in Red Hot Riding Hood, she appears wearing the identical, it's identical, but it's red.
That's why I thought it might have been the same thing because I vaguely remembered that outfit.
The dance sequence is very different, but the image is the same except for the color is red instead of white. So while she's singing this very sort of sultry "Oh Wolfie" song, and the wolf is having
A
lustful,
reaction.
lustful, animated reactions, and the fairy godmother is dealing with that. Cinderella is dancing on the stage. Talon, would you like to describe her method of movement?
So in my notes, I have written that she does a lot of hip gyrations with her fingers kind of in like finger guns pointing at her hips.
Yep.
She also, I can only speculate about her anatomy, but she also doesn't seem to be connected, like the top of her torso to her hips only seem to be connected by her spine because the top and the bottom kind of wave independently of each other in like cartoon physics.
It's very burlesque. It's got a very burlesque feel to it. And honestly, it was pretty fun.
Oh, I loved it. I thought it
Yeah,
was great.
especially because at one point the wolf slips his manacle and races onto the floor, and the fairy godmother catches him and they start to dance a swing dance, which made me really happy because
So
they actually have a whole dance together. I don't know why I liked it so much, but I really did.
I mean, that's your thing.
It
You
is
look
my
for
thing.
dancing,
I
I
do.
look for who knows. So some of the things that happen while Cinderella is singing on stage is that the wolf howls, he whistles, his eyes go boing. She's also singing it to him and is like in his lap for
Yeah,
part of it. A lot
in
of mixed signals
yeah, in that burlesque style where you leave the stage and you pick someone in the audience to interact with. She does that, but she specifically picks him for reasons that
every
I don't
time.
understand. Yeah, every single time, which I don't understand. I would have picked somebody who wasn't sexually harassing me, but whatever.
Yeah.
Simpler
And
time.
the whole time, the fairy godmother is like hitting the wolf on the head with a mallet and is trying to like pull him towards her. At one point, she chains his leg to her leg so he doesn't keep trying to run to the stage.
He floats up to the ceiling at one point.
He does.
He does. That's not explained. Nothing's really
It's
explained. It's
it's the
fine.
power of lust. I was gonna say love, but it's definitely
It's
lust.
definitely lust. It's the power of lust. So the fairy godmother then pulls out a clock and points to it frantically as it is 5 minutes to midnight.
And Cinderella goes, "Uh-oh." And at this point, the wolf escapes and the fairy godmother hits him with a mallet. He hits her with a mallet. Then Cinderella hits the wolf with a mallet, and everyone runs back to their cars.
So I'm looking through my notes trying to find this because I do not remember this moment and I can't believe that I would have missed it. And I found it encapsulated in a single line. Everyone hits everyone else with mallets.
I wrote it down as mallet times three,
Mallet times three. Good, good.
just
So
instantaneous mallets.
yeah, it was pretty great. So Cinderella drives back to her place, and the car transforms back into a pumpkin,
But
and
she still drives it.
she still drives it as a pumpkin, which was impressive. I think that was really, commitment. I liked it. And she gets back to her place, and she's turned into rags, and there's a bus waiting out front that says midnight shift. And so she runs in, slams the door, immediately opens the door, and comes out wearing a different outfit.
She's Rosie the Riveter. She's got the wide-legged pants. She's got her hair up. She's Rosie the Riveter.
She's absolutely Rosie the Riveter. She races onto the bus and sits down. I'm gonna let Talon do the words because I'm not gonna even pretend that I wrote them down.
So she goes, "Oh, thank heavens, I finally got rid of the wolf." And then from behind her, she hears, "Oh, yeah, that's what you think, sister." And the camera pans, and the bus is full of wolves, and they all start howling at her. And
And
that's the
then,
end.
and then we're done. And that's why the comedy beat through the whole thing upset me because it ends on this note of, haha, but now I'm chasing you again, so now it's fine or funny. I don't know. The 40s were a weird time with like consent.
It felt like a really weird cultural commentary of like all men are wolves.
It did, but it also did not appear to be condemning that.
It seemed to think that all men are wolves and that you as a woman are not safe anywhere. And also that that's funny.
Yeah, that's funny and that's fine. It very much for me had a boys will be boys attitude to it, which I don't like. So I was really hoping they were going to I wasn't hoping. I'm sorry, that was a lie. In my head, I would like if they had had a moment of, "Oh my, it certainly is unpleasant to be aggressively sexually pursued by somebody that you do not want that energy from," and then apply that to their own behavior.
Oh, you wanted
Or
a cartoon to learn something.
I did, I wanted it to learn, but it did not. It didn't learn. It got really close. It got all the way to the point and then made a hairpin turn and ran back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how that movie ends.
So usually we kind of go through this as we summarize what happened, but Liv, what's Cinderella's deal? Like, what's she like? What are her goals?
Well, she's clearly working 2 jobs. One is a nightclub singer and one is Rosie the Riveter. She's
Yes.
clearly working 2 jobs because she's living in poverty, as displayed by the Flintstones dress that she's wearing.
The Cinderella arms though, the house she lives in, that looked really nice.
I think that was like a hotel that she was working at,
Oh.
'cause it was a many-roomed house, but I didn't get that it was hers. I thought that it was like an apartment complex or somewhere cheap that she could not escape from. So I think what's holding her here is the capitalist
Capitalism
menace. Yeah, capitalism is the true horror the whole time.
and the patriarchy.
And the patriarchy. So it's the capitalist patriarchy is, I think, the evil stepmother in this one. I think
Okay.
that's
Yeah, so unlike most Cinderella adaptations, she has no stepmother or stepsisters.
or prince. There's no prince.
Well, I think the wolf is meant to take the role of the prince.
Is he?
Yes.
Is he?
No, I don't know.
No.
If you
I
had to put him in a Cinderella, he thinks he's the prince.
I think he's the evil stepmother.
I'm just gonna sit with that one. I don't know what to say to that one.
He can't be the prince and there aren't that many other options. A lot of Cinderellas have alternate villains, so he can just be an alternate villain.
Okay, I will take alternate villain.
That's fine, because that's a thing that a lot of Cinderellas have, just a random
Well,
extra
the
bad guy.
adaptations that are trying too hard.
Well, no, Ever After has an alternate villain and it's excellent.
Oh, you know what? That's true.
It's true, I'm right.
Okay, you know whatever After has that I wish this movie had?
How long of a list would you like? How much time do we have?
A scene in which Cinderella threatens the villain and like punches him in the face.
Well, she does hit him with a mallet a whole bunch. I mean, she hits him with a hammer, she slams a door in his face.
But it would be so much more satisfying if she just cold cocked him.
It would be better if she punched him. If she just punched him, that would be a great moment. Like if as she was leaving her house, as Rosie the Riveter, the wolf had shown up and tried to make a pass at her one more time and she had just clocked him on her way to the bus, that would have been
Yeah.
fun. That
That's
would have been
what
fun.
that's the energy that I wanted.
Yeah. Or there are so many things. So we appear to be talking about what we would change about this movie. So one of the things that I would change, I would make she gets on the bus, we pan up and we see that it's full of wolves. Spoiler, the wolves are all female wolves who are also going to work somewhere and they're just like, "Oh my god, men, right?" Ugh.
Why did you
That
say spoiler as if this was a real thing you could spoil people for and not just your
because it would be
imagination?
I don't know, it just felt natural to put there. But instead of her getting on the bus and, "Oh no, it's full of wolves who are also catcally terrible people." It's wolves, but they're not men, so they're behaving properly.
I would have liked very similar idea. I would have liked it to have been full of just yeah, girls going to work. I don't need them to be wolf girls. I think that might have been confusing.
That's
Um
fair.
just full of different ladies, different ages, different shapes, just
Yeah.
different ladies.
Yeah.
And when she says her line about getting away from that wolf, they go, "You said it, sister." And
Yeah.
then they howl with laughter instead of
Yes.
howling at
Yes.
her.
I was trying to make the smallest change I could to affect that, but yours is much better. That's what I would change.
So
So,
it's very in your face girl powery, but I would have dug it so much.
oh, absolutely. That would have been fabulous. That would have saved this movie. If that had been the final scene, this movie would be getting several higher letter grades than it's going to be getting. What would you say that your highs and lows are?
Every time Cinderella talked was a high,
Yeah.
but her line, "Why, grandmother, you do wave a mean wand, don't you, old girl?" That
Yes.
one
That.
was the high of the movie for me. It was phenomenal.
Agreed, agreed. That was an excellent line.
So the low for me would be the ending. Yeah, I didn't like that it was full of wolves and that that was the punchline. I hated that.
Yeah.
I was fine with her being pursued by the wolf and her being like, "Oh, gross," because he was kind of the butt of that joke.
Yeah.
And like with the grandmother pursuing him, he was still kind of the butt of that joke because she was much more successful than he was. So I was actually like fine with that. I get that it's all like kind of gross and like
But it was
non-consensual, but
but it
like it's a cartoon.
from the
I don't
40s.
care.
We
It's not real life.
it was the 40s.
And it was the 40s. So
We
like all
didn't
of that,
yeah,
I
we
didn't really it didn't bother me.
that's
It
fair.
didn't feel realistic enough to bother me. But
That's
the end with the
yeah.
bus and they're all wolves.
That yeah, dislike.
How about you? What are your highs and lows?
My highs was absolutely the song. I was so happy. I'm still happy about it.
My favorite line in the song, by the way, "You're not rugged, it's true, but when I look at you, I just ooh wolfie."
Okay, so the line from Oh Johnny is so it's supposed to be a song about a guy who's has a lot of qualities and he is overlooked because he's not handsome.
Mhm.
Because the line in the song is, "You're not handsome, it's true, but when I look at you, I just oh Johnny oh." So it's
Aw.
it's a fun song. It's about a guy who's good in bed. So like you're
Oh.
plainer, but
Oh my god, is that what that line was about? Because
mhm,
there's a
mhm.
line whose line is oh so smooth when he spreads it on, and she makes this hand gesture of just like something long.
So that's probably not a
Is
dick
that not what
reference.
I'm thinking?
Probably not, because the 1940s did have so much weird slang, and a lot of it was sort of sexual, and a lot of it sounded sexual but wasn't, because the 40s were weird. But
Okay, so does that line mean he's a smooth talker?
yes, that is a smooth talking line.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the song. My lows also the ending. I don't like picking the same low as you, but
It's a
um
real low low.
yeah, it was really bad. I I wish I could pick multiple highs because my other high would be fairy godmother sitting alone in a bar just chugging a fishbowl margarita.
Big mood.
Big mood, life goals. I've done that. Been like, yes, I just finished an opening shift after a closing shift. I've gotten no sleep. I would like the biggest margarita you have and some queso.
I think the reason that we're so frustrated with the ending is that a big part of Cinderella is that there's like some sort of comeuppance against the villains. You know, you get to see either Cinderella gets something good that no one expected her to get, or you
Yes,
see her get something good and also the villains suffer in some way.
exactly. And this is the opposite of that
So, how do you
because
feel about calling this a Cinderella?
I don't know. This hit a lot of the Cinderella points,
There's no shoe,
but there's no shoe,
there's no prince.
there's no prince, there's no step family.
It's like the first half of a Cinderella.
Yeah. So I liked how they modernized it. I thought that that was really interesting, and I know that there are going to be a couple of other modern Cinderellas, modernized Cinderellas, and I think there's a way to do it really well. This wasn't that. So
I don't
I
think they were trying to.
I think this is on the edge. I am undecided about whether or not this is a Cinderella. I think correct me if I'm wrong, Colin. I think the main theme of this podcast is going to be defining the platonic ideal of what constitutes a Cinderella.
I don't know how we can watch so many adaptations and not come to an understanding of what the Cinderella story is at its crux.
Yeah, because this definitely hits some of the beats, but I don't think you can be a Cinderella and not have a prince love interest that you wind up with. I don't think you can be a Cinderella and not have something left behind at a ball for them to find you with.
Do you know, I will accept a Cinderella that doesn't have a prince as long as she has some sort of goal or interest that she's pursuing that she manages to accomplish
Okay,
with,
but the ball has to be a plot point. That has to be a
yes,
turning moment, and this was not a turning moment. This was her evening gig versus her this was her second shift job as opposed to her graveyard shift job. This was just a happy comedy about the evils of capitalism and the patriarchy and how it crushes people and ruins their like it was somebody made a happy version of Upton Sinclair's The Jungle or something. I don't know. It felt weird,
it did feel weird because it seemed very cognizant of what it was.
but not what that meant. Just
Yeah,
yeah, so it very much knew what it was, but it did not follow through on any of those implications, which made it uncomfortable.
absolutely. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. It drew our attention to the darker side of things and then just didn't resolve that in any way.
Or even frontally address it. Just literally, I'm going to take you to this ending, and then I'm going to do a hairpin turn and race back to the beginning and just leave you there by yourself, alone, in the coming dark.
And the wolves are howling.
And the wolves are howling. Oh god. All right, so Talon, do you think our listeners should watch this?
Yeah, this is a hoot. It's such a fun thing to watch. I know that there's like it sounds dark and upsetting, but if you look at it from the standpoint of just animation, it's a whirlwind and it's fun, it's wacky, there's a lot of noises, there's a cute song in the middle,
Yeah,
and then like a dark edge.
yeah, it's got a lot of Tom and Jerry beats of just that slapstick animated humor where people get flattened into rugs and turned into doors and stuff. So the animation was really funny. I would not tell our listeners to watch this because there are other if you want to get that sense of fun, wacky animation, watch Tom and Jerry. You don't need to watch this. This was weird. It was kind
Was
of
it
dark.
better than Red Hot Riding Hood?
Oh no. I mean, sorry. Yes. I thought you were going to say was it worse? I was anticipating you. This was definitely better. Red Hot Riding Hood has the fairy godmother is not there at the show holding him back. So the wolf is a classy man about town and he goes to this definitely a strip club and Red performs another song in which she's wearing an identical outfit but her body movements are more wiggly than thrusty. And
Mm-hmm.
he
Okay.
proceeds to spend the entire time, which we are subjected to, pounding on the table, whistling, calling. He at one point puts a device on the table so that multiple things can whistle and just aggressively slam the table. And as a performer, I hated it.
Well, that's seen as the inspiration for the mask. That bit
So,
in the club where he's doing the big eyes and he
yeah,
turns into a wolf. That's why.
yeah, no, and it's a funny beat, but it goes on forever. It does have some fun moments where he asks her out in a couple of very different accents, all of which are equally upsetting, going from creepy French Riviera guy to creepy mod boss guy to creepy frat boy guy, which I didn't realize was a voice in 1943. And there's a funny moment where she kind of goes, "Well," and then turns full on and just screams no at him at the top of her lungs, and that was funny. And then stuff happens and he winds up at her grandmother's house, which is like a penthouse apartment, and they have the same beats of windows and chasing and doors, and the grandmother's interested in him and he is not interested. And that ends with him falling out of the window of this penthouse apartment, and we see him in the strip club the next night and he's all bandaged up and he says, "I'm sick of dames. I'll kill myself before I look at another dame," in a strip club. And so the stage curtains open and there's Red again and he looks at her, takes out two guns and shoots himself with both of them.
Oh my god, I did not see that coming.
Falls down dead. His ghost rises from his body and continues to catcall her and pound on the table. And so I was more upset about it.
Wow.
I was more upset about it.
Okay.
Although the screaming no moment was a definite high point for me because that was awesome.
I do like that it sounds like the wolf got some sort of comeuppance.
He did, but it appeared to be weirdly pro suicide.
And he clearly learned nothing from it.
No, if you were determined to put off women, surely the last place you would go would be a strip club, which is full of women. That's sort of its stated purpose. I mean, am I missing something?
No, you're completely right. There's nothing I can respond to that with
Yeah.
because he's a
Wolf
he's a wolf who's
is
just
strip.
very thirsty.
Yeah. So, final grade.
I'm gonna go with a B plus.
Really?
I
Okay.
really liked it. Like I genuinely really liked it. How about you?
I am teetering between a C and a C minus
I took off
because
more points because it wasn't really a Cinderella in
yeah,
my
it's
eyes.
it's definitely losing a lot of points because it's not a Cinderella. And it's losing a lot of points because of the ending. If the ending had been and she gets on a bus full of other Rosie the Riveters who are also going to work and they're all like, "Yeah, so glad we got rid of those wolves. Amen, sister." That would have been awesome and it would have swung it back up to like a B or a B minus. But yeah, I think I went with the C minus. I hated that they didn't learn this lesson, which I find particularly ugly. And it's not a Cinderella. So it doesn't grade well as a Cinderella. Like the animation was funny and some of the comedy beats in the middle were funny and the song was great and her voice was perfect. Her voice was phenomenal.
She's a femme fatale
She is, and I loved it.
in a
Um,
noir movie, but she's being chased by a wolf in
yeah,
like a Warner Brothers cartoon.
yeah. So this is a passing grade, but only just barely.
That's fair. You get half the points for half the Cinderella.
Yeah,
Well, it's almost midnight, so thanks for joining us. If you like this episode, please leave us a rating or a review. We'd love to hear from you, so follow us at CinderPod on Twitter and Instagram, like our Facebook page, or email us at thecinderellapodcast@gmail.com. If you want bibbity bobbity bonus episodes or to hear us discuss this week's Cinderella again, but with more adult beverages and the ever after party, please support us at patreon.com/cinderpod. Our intro music is Bad Ideas by Kevin MacLeod. You can find him at incompetech.com. Until next week, we hope you have a happily ever after.